Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Q&Ray. Today I'm joined by John from Ontario, Canada. So John, you sent me some video. Do you want to start there or do you have questions you want to ask me first?
No, I'm good with either or. Whatever is easier for you, we can jump right in.
This
Or
30 minutes is for you. You get to drive. I'm
oh,
just here for you.
okay.
Be ready.
Well, I guess I love the content you put out. I love how you're constantly providing content and feedback to coaches, athletes, trainers of all levels. And I guess the question I've always wanted to know is that what made you, or what kind of motivated you to get where you are now? Like is this something that you um, want to do on a full time basis, or you already are? Like, how do you balance your coaching commitments and your I guess, content commitments?
Yeah, that's a great question actually. The reason why I even started Q&Ray is because I got burnt out creating content. It was really hard for me to come up with original content and new stuff. And honestly, a lot of the stuff I've been studying lately is kind of controversial in a sense because it goes against what a lot of people have been teaching for a long time. And I don't want to start fights and arguments about things and semantics. So I'm really careful about the things I post. Um, but I'm really comfortable answering questions. So that's kind of why I've switched to this. Most of my following has found me through CrossFit weightlifting. Back when it was CrossFit weightlifting, I did a weekly video every Wednesday for Coach B. And after that, I started Kai Athletics, where we did like 6 week long series for movements type stuff. And then after that, it's got burnt out. So I stopped making content. And Q&Ray is actually my resurgence, my new or my re-entry, my comeback into creating content. And really, for me, I think what really matters to me most is serving the community and what they need. And I don't really know what they need unless I ask questions or unless you come to me with questions. So this is kind of my comeback, as you could say.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I can totally understand the burnt out stage. Like in my very short coaching career, I'm trying to find a good balance of, again, providing service to my athletes and my teammate members, but then also be able to find time for myself. And I find that now, as my coaching commitments are kind of increasing, my personal time to myself is decreasing, and that was always like my time. So I find that there are certain days where I'm feeling, just like you said, burnt out,
Yeah.
tired, fatigued, and I can't give anybody anything if I'm not 100% myself. So
Yeah. Truth be told, I would say that in the last 3 years. So I closed my gym 3 years ago when I started going full time teaching seminars for CrossFit and for weightlifting and all that stuff. I did that for 2 years. Was on the road for basically every weekend of the month. Um, and during the last 3 years, I would say that my training has fallen off considerably. There are days when I don't even work out at all because I'm stuck behind the screen, putting together content, editing video, meeting with coaches. My full time gig right now, because back in 2019, the seminars kind of started to slow down for me. So I've been spending most of my time coaching coaches. I do 5 Zoom calls for my mentoring program a week, and then I do one on ones with people. So I'm standing here at this desk. I got a stand up desk here, so everything moves around. But I stand at this desk all day long, basically, coaching, editing content. And some days I don't even see outside. Like yesterday, or no, 2 days ago, I didn't even leave the house. I was in this basement all day long. So balance is actually my word for 2021 is to find balance. I just got married, so that's another reason why I haven't been traveling as much because when you're single, I mean, I did Thanksgiving abroad for 3 Thanksgivings in a row. This is the first Thanksgiving I was actually home.
wow.
So, yeah, balance is my word for 2021, and it's hard. Once
Mm,
you start getting into coaching more and more, if you're a good coach and you're actually doing it for the right reasons, you're gonna find less time for yourself. But like you said, it's super important to find that time for yourself because if you're pouring from an empty bucket, you've got nothing to pour.
mhm, mhm.
So one thing I've been doing lately is just I make my wife pour over coffee in the morning. So what I'll do is I'll get up and I'll put the coffee inside the little filter and I'll hit the button for the kettle. And while I'm waiting for that, I'll do shoulder rotations and stuff with a PVC pipe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So finding time where I can force myself to move, and then I've got a heavy sandbag over here on the other side of this wall. And every time I walk by it, I have to try to pick it up, or at least once a day. I intentionally put it in the corner so I don't walk by it all the time. But the rule is at least once a day I try to pick it up. And there were times when that bag never moved because it's so dang heavy.
Mm,
And ever since I made it a point to pick it up at least once a day, it's gotten easier and easier. So You might get to a point where you're like me, where you have less and less time to train. So you just have to be creative on finding ways to keep yourself active.
Hmm.
That's what I'm doing. Whenever I make coffee for my wife, I'm doing my shoulder stuff. Whenever I happen to walk by that sandbag, or at least once a day, I go pick up that sandbag just so I'm doing something.
Yeah.
But yeah, balance is hard.
Yeah. I find that in between like my coaching commitments and some of my behind the scenes commitments at my kind of new role, hybrid role at the gym,
Uh,
I'm find myself like only having maybe an hour for training when
yeah,
I used to have, hours on end. So now I'm making myself work on, my weaknesses, the stuff that takes, 30, 40 minutes tops, and it's usually the boring, strict strength progression stuff that's just not as fun to do as like crushing a 30-minute, AMRAP or something. So
the non-sexy stuff that no one wants to do.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like picking up a heavy sandbag that no one's be like, well, why that's stupid? Why would you want to do that? Man, like it's actually I've fallen in love with sandbags because they're very unforgiving.
Mhm.
Have you ever tried to front rack or front squat a 150-pound sandbag?
Not a sandbag, but we do have like a 100-pound. Well, we call it a big chicken nugget. It's this big yellow. It looks like a sandbag. I'm not sure what the
Okay.
actual term is, but I don't like it because it's unconventional. You can't grab it like you normally would an object, and I avoid it on purpose for that very reason.
Yeah, it's humbling. It's
Hmm.
humbling. I can front squat 150 a lot of reps, but that sandbag maybe three or four, and I'm done because it's just the sand's moving, everything's like it's unstable, and you're just like ah. And
Hmm.
I'm actually really starting to appreciate it because here in Washington the gyms are closed, and so we can't really work out anyway.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, if I'm running an errand at the gym, towards the gym, I'll open up and I'll go do a set of squats, and I'm like, wow, I haven't touched a barbell in like 2 months, but I can still squat this thing because I'm lifting the dang sandbag. So that's
Yeah.
been nice.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I think one of the top five, or I had a friend of mine say, like, if you only had to build a garage gym out of, like minimal items, that kind of thing. One was some kind of bike, whether it's an assault bike or an echo bike, a pair of dumbbells, one squat rack, and then he didn't say a barbell. He said a sandbag. He's like, don't worry about barbells and
Yeah,
plates. Like, get a sandbag. And I was like, a
yeah,
sandbag?
the
And he goes, yeah,
sandbag.
that's all you need. He goes, fill it up as big as you want. You can get a smaller one. He goes, that's all you need. It's a sandbag. And then just like you
Yeah,
said, pick it up, squat it, front rack it, throw it over your shoulder. That's all you need.
they're mean, man. Like,
Mhm.
so I actually live part time in Washington and part time in San Diego. And in San Diego, I have all of my equipment from my gym. It's all packed into my mom's garage. So I've got a garage gym there. And I could drive down there 20 hours and 20 hours back to pick up half of my gym and bring it up here for my shop. But just recently, I picked up a box, and this is I got 7 brand new sandbags in here that I haven't filled out yet. So I got
Oh,
60-pound bag, 100-pound bag, 140, 160, 180, and a 200. But now I'm thinking I should have got the 220 and the 240 bags because now I'm getting good at the 150. So, but that's an entire gym in a little box.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there's so much you can do with the sandbags that are so humbling. And like yesterday, I almost puked because um, one of my favorite things to do is I've been doing CrossFit since 2007. So I've been around the block. I've done all the things. I'll never ever want to do Fran ever again. The last time I did it was 2016. So I'm trying to find new ways to torture myself in ways that I'm not going to psych myself out. Because for me, Fran is really it's more a psychological thing.
Yep.
I remember the last time I did Fran, I'd finished in 248, and then I laid on the floor for 30 minutes. No joke. As soon as I dropped from the pull-up bar, I just laid there, staring at the pull-up bar, contemplating life for 30 minutes.
Yep.
And anxiety is so heavy that I don't ever want to do it again. So one thing that I do now, and this might be helpful for you too, when you're trying to find time to work out, you've got an hour, right? So I have this playlist of songs that have words that repeat. So I don't know if you saw my Instagram post yesterday where I talked about jumping pull-ups to a song, but you pick a song like baila 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 like that. If it's got a word that repeats a bunch of times,
Yep.
what you do is like you pick an exercise, like a sandbag squat. So for example, yesterday I did that song "Lovely Day" by Bill Withers.
Mhm.
What I did was I would stand there and wait, and then when it got to the chorus, I'd pick up the heavy sandbag and squat it for max reps. And then when the chorus was over, I dropped it. And
Mhm.
the time between choruses is not very long, but what the song does, it adds in a variable component to it where you're not like freaking out or analyzing. You're just having to listen to the song and be present to it.
Mhm.
And I didn't know how long it was going to be, but it turned out to have 3 choruses. And by the third chorus, I was so gassed I couldn't squat. So I was like, I'm just gonna hold this for the rest of the song. And for the rest of the song, I'm like this. I started here and I started crumbling, the back slipping on my fingers. I'm here, I'm like almost done there. And the song ends and I just fell over, almost threw up. I laid on the ground like Fran pain. But the thing is that I like that because I didn't know where it was gonna go.
Hmm.
You know, you've been doing CrossFit for a while, so you know what it's like, what the hurt's gonna feel like, so you can pace
Hmm.
it.
Yep.
And for most people, CrossFit has become constantly varied functional movement at moderate intensity because I'm pacing because I don't want to hurt too bad, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Versus when you were brand new and you didn't know any better, you actually did high intensity. But anyone who's got a little bit of veteran status, you're like, oh, I don't want to hurt. I don't want to go there hard. You don't, you know what the pain cave looks like, and you're like, I don't want to go there once you start to sense it. But
Mhm.
doing workouts to songs, especially if you've never done the workout to that song before, is it does a couple things for me. Number one, it reduces my anxiety because you see people all the time, like they walk into the gym, like they're already anxious. They look at the whiteboard, they go, "Oh crap, I can't RX that. Oh crap, I can't do that movement. Oh crap, I can't do that. Oh crap, I gotta beat my friend. Oh crap, how much time's left? Can I take my shirt off? This weight's too heavy. How many reps should I do?" You know, there's all this stuff that's spinning in your head, and like what ends up happening is you just create more bad stress, which is counterproductive. So for me, I'll just go and I'll pick a weight, I'll pick a exercise, and I'll pick a song, and I'll say, okay, whenever the chorus is playing or whenever this word repeats itself, I'm gonna do reps. And there's no counting; it's just breathing and moving, and it's been refreshing to do something different. And I can waste myself within 10 minutes, and I'm like, cool, I did something today. That's awesome. Then go back to my day.
Mhm.
So that's one thing that I've been doing with 30, 40, 50 minutes of free time to
Yep.
get something in and actually feel good about it. And it's been helpful for me. It's been refreshing to learn how to work out that way
Mhm.
because I got really burnt out on traditional like 3, 2, 1 go AMRAPs or like for time stuff because sometimes you're just not in the mood to work out. Have you ever been there?
Oh, absolutely. And I find now that like at the age that I'm at, like I'm gonna be 39 in 2021, which right
Yeah.
now kind of freaks me out because I'm at that age where, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, like because I haven't been in the CrossFit game as long as most people, but I've been physically active and been able to push myself and recover on a dime for a long time. Now I can't recover as fast. So it's humbling to be able to, crush a workout and then realize, wow, I feel that like 4 days later. I don't feel that just one day later. I'm getting older, right? So I got to be more smarter in my workout selection and my recovery. Realizing that, if this is going to be my lifestyle for the next, for as long as I can hang on to it, then I got to be smart about workouts. I can't just go in there and pick a workout and go, oh, that looks devastating. Let me crush it. And then the next day
Yeah.
I'll do something else because I can't recover as fast,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's been, a key part in just learning and evolving as a coach too, and not only as an athlete.
That's an important lesson to learn. When I was 37, I learned that I could only work 4 times a week, work out 4 times a week, and have adequate recovery. I'm
Mhm.
gonna be 41 in February, and so it's hard, man. It's real. Like the hormones are not there anymore. Like you can't
Oh,
keep up with the kids anymore. I remember 6 months ago, the couple of the guys at the gym were like, "Let's do some cleans," and I was like, "All right, cool. I'll jump in." And they're just like making massive jumps, and I didn't warm up, and I'm a meathead because I mean I can lift, and I'm 41 in February. Jeez, like I didn't warm up well enough, and I couldn't get my elbows around on a clean, and like when I first started to learn how to do cleans, I like hit my elbow on my knee and I messed up my wrist for like 6 months. And I kid you not, like I got 3 reps in, I did the same thing, and I'm like, "Jeez, really, man? Like, don't you know what you're?" And so I have to warm up at least 20, 30 minutes before I can actually do anything impressive.
yep.
So, and then the recovery, like you said, just isn't the same.
No, it
It's just
isn't.
not.
And it's funny because like the footage that I sent you was exactly the day where I was like, okay, I've got 40 minutes. I gotta run some errands, get back for a class. What do I want to do? Oh, I know. I haven't cleaned in a long time. Hey, why don't I try and see what I can lift overhead, see what my max is? Like
Yeah,
I've stuck at a certain percentage forever, and exactly what happened was what was supposed to happen. I cleaned it. I was able to get in that front rack, and every time I go to jerk it overhead, it doesn't go anywhere. And I think I
yeah,
tried 4 or 5 times before I actually got it. But even 5 or 6 attempts at that one weight, I was just gassed, and I was like, "Oh, well, that was awful. That wasn't fulfilling, and now I just feel like a bonehead."
yeah. I mean, one thing that I try to encourage myself with, um, because I struggle with that too. I haven't PR'd my snatch in 4 years. Haven't PR'd my back squat in 3. Clean and jerk I PR'd in 2018. It's 3 years now. 3 years. It's been a while, and like when I was traveling a ton, it was really really hard to be consistent with training. Um, so I know what that's like to not have consistency. And then with this year of COVID and stuff, I think I've touched a barbell maybe 10, 15 times
Hmm.
all year long, and that's kind of it's humbling, man, because I used to be the guy that everyone said, "Oh, raised mobility is awesome," and now I have a hard time with a PVC pipe. So
Hmm.
that's kind of why I'm back to basics with a PVC pipe making coffee because
Hmm.
I know I was an engineer when I started coaching, and so I know what it's like to have terrible front rack. I was like, this was me back in the day. I couldn't front rack. My overhead position was like this. It was terrible, but I worked really hard to get to where I could be, and now I'm not quite as bad as I was when I first started, but it's still very humbling. Like thinking back where I used to be. So one thing I would encourage you with is just consistency of small things, like that PVC pipe thing. It was crazy. Like when I first started doing it, I couldn't get my arms behind my back like to here. So I'd hold two PVC pipes like this, a PVC pipe like this, and try to lift up, and like I was only able to get to here. Now I can get to about there, and that's just time and exposure to it, like exposure therapy. Like your body gets good at what it's doing most often, and if you never go overhead or never front rock, you're not a bad person. You just your body doesn't know how to do it anymore. So one of my favorite things to do is like this is what I do with the coffee. I take the PVC pipe and I sit there and just do slow muscle cleans just to regroove the motion and just do that while the water is boiling. And it's been crazy how much I've been able to regain just in a week of doing it. So if I can rebuild the consistency and keep getting it back, I hope to get back to where I used to be. But consistency is key.
Yeah. Yeah,
You want to
absolutely.
jump in and look at those videos?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. That'd be great.
All right. Are they in a particular order?
There's four of them. They're not long. They're maybe 15, 20 seconds.
Okay.
There's only one that I actually get it overhead. I think the other three are just pretty sad attempts, or I sit in the front rack forever and overthink jerk,
Okay.
which I tend to do a lot.
Let's see which this one is.
Oh, that's the one I hit.
Is that the one you hit? Okay. So it's
The
in
only one I
reverse
hit.
order. Let's watch the first two then. So I'm glad that you sent me 4 videos because it's good to see what's consistent and what's not.
Mhm.
Um, so what was holding you back there? Did you just not feel comfortable with it and not wanting to go overhead?
Yeah, because I mean, like that for me is probably like in the 90 percentage. So I tend to sit there and before I even like brace, before even I'm already in my head going, "Holy crap, this is heavy! Holy crap, this is heavy!
Got
Holy
it.
crap!" And I know that if you don't commit to 100% and get those negative thoughts out of your head, like you've already defeated yourself.
Yeah, yeah. That one looked better than the one before it. Okay, so here's one thing that I really like about this front rack position, which is better than the last one, is you
Mhm.
see how the bar is actually sitting on your shoulders right now?
Mhm.
See on the first rep, we go back to the first rep. See, look where the bar is sitting now. You see how it's like sitting out in front? It's like it's kind of sort of touching your shoulders, but it's further forward.
Mhm.
Like for every inch that the bar is forward in the frontal plane, it's gonna feel a lot heavier.
Mhm. Mhm.
So for you, I liked the one before it or the second rep
Yeah.
because it was actually more. It was actually deeper in the front rack position.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can. Let's look at the third one. See if that's better. Here we go. There, you see how it's actually sitting on your shoulders there
Mhm.
versus the first one. And a lot of it comes to you're probably cold. You didn't warm up. A lot of people who struggle with the front rack position, they think that they have bad wrists. And really, the limiting factor is normally either your pecs, your triceps, or your lat.
Mhm.
Because if your pec is short, so this is my pec right here. If I'm pulling down, see how it brings my elbow down.
Yeah.
Same thing with my lat. If my lat is short, it's gonna pull my elbow down. If my tricep is short, it's gonna pull my elbow down. So as you got further and further along, you're able to get into better front rack where the bar is actually sitting on your shoulders. So
Mhm.
essentially, the first set of reps, the bar was out here. It was like not even really on you. It was kind of on you, but not. But
Yeah.
the rest of them, they're actually sitting on the shelf. You have a shelf where the bar is sitting. The further the bar is to your throat, it's going to be basically the way I like to teach a jerk is I'll put the bar like this, and you can do this too. It's like go to a front like a rack and just put the bar on your shoulders like this, and then feel how much stronger that feels. It's gonna feel uncomfortable holding like this because it's not really the your hands are off the bar, but you see
Mhm.
how the bar is sitting on the shelf that's right here.
Yeah.
So going down and up, you can work on what they call jerk dip squats, and just feel the weight on your shoulders.
Mhm.
You have to think about the jerk as you're driving the bar up with your legs.
Yeah.
So one thing I like to tell people is, hey, put the bar here and then just dip and go, and you'll see the bar like fly off your shoulders about an inch or two.
Mhm. Mhm.
On the jerk, your legs are what elevate the barbell, and
Yeah.
then when the bar gets to here, what you're doing is you're pushing your body under the bar, not trying to push the bar up.
Yeah.
So it might be just a different way of thinking of it. Is it okay if I nitpick a couple other little things here?
Oh no, go for it. Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
So, couple things. Number one, the first one I saw. Are you hook gripping?
I am not hook gripping.
Oh man, man. Why?
You know, it's funny. I understand the benefits, and I've been to weightlifting seminars where they're just like, if you don't hook grip, like I don't know what you're doing here, and it's something I just haven't gotten comfortable um, transitioning. Like normally I'll hook grip all the time, like in let's say a snatch, right? But for
Yeah.
something about the clean and jerk, there's something where as I'm bringing that bar up, I've been playing around lately with trying to re-grip it or re-rack it, like as that bar comes up, because I've always been like, do I want it wider? Do I want it narrower? And I played around with a front rack here, a front rack here, and just having that transition from coming up and then re-racking and then re-hooking. Like
Yeah.
I haven't got that coordination down yet.
It just takes practice. I mean,
Mhm.
when I first started doing cleans, I would start really wide on the grip here because I figured out that the wider you grip it, the higher you can get the bar.
Mhm.
But I didn't have the mobility to receive in that same position. So I'd literally start with my hands out here, and then when I received the bar, my hands would let go and I'd land like this. And it took me a while to be able to just keep my hands where they are. So you see how my hands can stay like this.
Yeah.
That's the other benefit to this drill that I'm doing. I'm literally just dragging the bar up, rotating around, and getting my hands and shoulders used to being able to be in this rack position. Like it took me a long time to develop that mobility. Um, but that's another thing I was going to mention is your grip's a little narrow.
Mhm.
So the wider that you bring your hands, you see how if my hands are narrow here, you can see like the bar is lower on my hips, right? If my hands are wider, you see how it comes up a little higher.
Yeah.
The higher the bar comes up, the more time you have to get underneath the bar when the bar gets to the top.
Mhm.
So that's one benefit to that. The other benefit to the hook grip is that it allows you to relax your arms. You ever see people like early arm bend?
Oh yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of that has to do because they're death gripping the bar really hard. Because when the bar gets heavy, it starts to slip out of their hands, right? So the hook grip lets you kind of relax your arms and just grip from right here. It takes a position of weakness and makes it strong. The thing is that it starts to hurt on the clean because it's heavier, right?
Mhm.
Do you ever tape your thumbs?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I get
Yeah,
that constant like ripping right here all the time.
yeah,
All
yeah. It's just one of those things that you have to. Once you get really good at it, you'll hook grip everything that can fit your. I mean, I hook grip pens. I'm that stupid. Like I hook grip my steering wheel. I hook grip everything. I hook grip false grip things because it's just the more opportunities I have to practice. I hook grip my the what do you call it, the basket at the grocery store.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
works, man. Like if you get obsessive over it, it's gonna make a difference. So that's the first thing I noticed. Or the second thing I noticed.
Hook grip everywhere.
Hook grip everything, man.
Yeah.
Um, in truth, the first thing I was looking at is actually your feet. That's the first thing I always look at when I'm watching people lift for the first time. For you, you do a pretty good job of staying flat-footed, but watch what happens when you pass your knees. Watch your toes. What do you see here up in here? It's not as
Yeah,
obvious.
they come up just slightly,
Yeah,
just very briefly. Yeah.
just very briefly. And then you see how you see where the bar is when you get to the top. Where is it?
It's already away from me.
It's away from you.
Yeah.
What that's telling me is that you're actually lifting with your low back.
Mm.
You're kind of going like you're kind of. I don't know if you can see me right now. You're kind of doing instead of pushing with your legs, you're whipping this way, and you can see it because you never quite get to the top of that leg drive.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's always been a struggle for me too. And I've poured over footage and been like, man, I am pulling way too early, and my legs never extend.
Yeah, I have that problem too. My legs won't extend. Um, and then what ends up happening with all that, that shifting that you're doing because you went back to your heels and back to the front. Watch where your
Mhm.
feet go. So I'll leave the mouse here at the tip of your left foot. Watch where
Okay.
your feet go. The left foot actually went back into the left, but look at the right foot. You see how the right foot went forward
Yep.
there.
Yeah, and that tends to happen when I get to like, and again, my coach always says like, once you get up to those certain percentages, your feet are just going to go where they need to go. Like your brain's going to be like, and my
Yes.
feet go here, right? They're just gonna. It's like a safety mechanism,
It
you
is
know.
a safety mechanism. Your body's going to go where it feels the safest.
Mhm.
Um, for this very reason, I never teach power cleans to beginners. In my gym, the only time we
Mhm.
ever did powers was when it was like a week before the open and it was time for people to learn how to do power cleans. Because I found that it's easier to teach the power clean when someone knows how to squat clean versus teaching someone to squat when they've been powering all the time.
Mhm.
What more people need in their life is to get comfortable in that bottom of the squat shape. So it was exposure therapy. I was just getting them used to squatting, squatting, squatting. And then when it was time to power, I just said, hey, do the same thing you always do, but don't squat below parallel. Just stop before you sink below parallel. And a lot of times people will do the squat clean and think that they have to receive the bar and rock bottom. No, like that's actually terrible. You want to try to lock out. You want to have the bar on your shoulders before you even break parallel, so you have that room to cushion the bounce.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's another thing. Like I teach people to like if I teach them how to power, I say power to parallel because that's still technically power.
Mhm.
And then what ends up happening is as the weight gets heavier and heavier, you're gonna get buried lower and lower. Like the only time you should ever miss a power clean is if you squatted below parallel. You should
Mhm.
always secure the bar.
Yep.
Versus you've seen people do powers and they can't get low enough because their feet go super wide or they can't get into a squat shape and the bar gets dropped, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, if we go back over here, um, I think you just have really tight pecs and lats, and that's why you have a hard time with that front rack.
Mhm.
Um, so it's just gonna take more exposure to it.
Yep.
As far as the jerk goes, this is the one that you made. So see where the bar is right now?
Mhm.
Where's it sitting?
It's still a little forward.
Yeah, it's still a little forward. You made it this time, but it's still a little forward. The dip is pretty good. You go straight down, but watch what happens once you went past this point. Where'd your hips go?
Yeah. It went forward.
They went
Oh, no.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went forward. You went a little bit too deep, and now you're caving in into your ankles. You see how that
Mhm.
left foot's starting to come
Yeah.
up?
And the heel coming up.
Yeah. Coach B always says like super just unlock the knees, just slight bend,
Mhm.
load it up, and then go. So that's
Yeah.
probably another reason why it feels heavy is because you've lowered yourself so low into a compromised position that you can't generate force from there.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
and I think the part of where I struggle too is that the heavier the weight gets, I feel I have to get lower to drive up
yeah,
more, right?
which
But
isn't
it's
terrible.
actually detrimental to the jerk.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about your athletic history? Like, what did you do before CrossFit?
Um, Primarily like played a lot of soccer, a lot of
Okay.
running, a lot of a couple marathons here and there, but mostly just soccer.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
A lot of running.
a lot of running. Yeah, I swam competitively like a whole lifetime ago, from like 12 to 17, but from my teens on, it was primarily team sports, a lot of soccer, a lot of running.
Got it. What do you notice about your torso as you're going through this move here?
Um, hmm, it's
What
hard
do
to
you notice?
tell.
And even in the clean, watch the clean.
Yeah.
So where do you receive the barbell when you lock it out? How would you describe your torso right now? Is it leaning forward, leaning back, straight up and down?
I want to say it's straight up.
Yeah, it is. It's not a trick
Yeah.
question. It definitely is. So you're
Okay. Okay.
laying like really like upright,
Hmm.
okay? And then when you receive the jerk, you're very upright.
Hmm.
And what that's happening now is your hips are stacked right over your feet,
Hmm.
and this is why you can't squat from that shape. So what that's telling me is you're probably not very strong here on your obliques.
Hmm.
This is actually my limiting factor on my back squat. Last night, I was back squatting and I loaded the bar heavier than I knew I could squat. My legs felt like they could do it, but the part that I knew wasn't going to be able to hold it was here.
Hmm.
You know, like your obliques are actually a really, really big contributor to your midline stabilization that we don't really talk about very much in CrossFit.
Yeah.
But if these are weak, this is why people tend to land here when they're over here or they're doing their squats or something instead of landing like a squat shape. See how my
Yeah.
butt went back?
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
your butt is staying right over your heels because this can't stabilize when it's in this position. It's in a bad position. So your body's like, holy crap, that's scary. Let's not do that. And it's prioritizing keeping your core straight up and down rather than going to a place where it feels weak.
Hmm. Hmm.
So a couple things that I would recommend that you do. I'll just give you some action items for this if you're willing. Um, for your cleans, I would recommend that you do everything to a squat and
Okay.
build the squat. And then one other thing too to simplify, and this is the way I always teach it to people who are building up their clean and their snatch, is do everything from the high hang first.
Yep.
Remove as many external variables as possible because coming from the floor to just above the knee is where you see you displace, like you're kind of going back and forth.
Yep.
And then what we want to do is we want to just build things and then add layers as you develop proficiency, right? So what I would do is just deadlift it up to the high hang, jump and land in that front squat at parallel every time, and try to develop your consistency in the squat shape.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, get comfortable in that front rack position. So maybe like, do you like coffee in the morning?
I'm actually I don't think I've touched a cup of coffee in my whole life. I'm not a coffee person, but I do wake up early and I get lots of early breakfast. I'm a morning person, just not a coffee person.
Okay, neither am I. I just make the coffee for my wife. I don't drink it. I used to drink coffee, and then it just makes me anxious because I'm already wired when I wake up, and it's just excess energy just makes me like my heart palpitate. It's not fun. But maybe like once a day, like spend like 5 minutes just doing this, dragging the bar up and down your chest, and then rotate into that front rock. You're probably gonna look like this at first, and that's gonna be okay for now. But try a wider grip and see if you have a little more room there,
Okay.
and just play with that. See if you can get comfortable in this front rack position, and then start squatting with that.
Mm.
Um, and do all your cleans to a squat or do your snatches to a squat for now, so you're comfortable in that shape. Because like your coach said, basically your body's gonna default to where it feels safest.
Yep.
What this tells me is you don't feel safe in a squat shape.
Hmm.
Because you keep defaulting to the straight up and down weight here. It's not really a squat anymore.
Yep.
When I teach to jerk, what I like to do is I test people. I go, okay, do the jerk, and now can you squat from there without changing anything? And if they can't, that means they landed too far forward, like you are right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's a great test. Like you should always have the option to squat.
Yeah.
Versus right now, you're really forward into that position. Um, what else is there? Hook grip, hook grip, hook grip.
Yep. I know that. Yeah.
It sucks, man. I know. It's like the most uncomfortable thing for the first month or two sometimes, but once you get it, you're like, why did I never do this before? I, I'm kind of a sassy jerk. I'll say, dude, if you choose not to hook grip, you're also choosing not to lift heavy. But it's your life,
That's
man.
true. Yep. Yeah. Trust me. Like I said, the weightlifting seminar I went to, I think I was one of maybe two people that were not as frequent hook grippers, and we all kind of got the what well, you're gonna hook grip the entire weekend you're here, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if you can do this at your gym, but my rule was if I catch you without a hook grip, everyone in the room will do burpees except for you. And people will like hook grip right away because they didn't want to be that bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's something I need to just start making more my routine. I just it's just laziness and just, complacency really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, other than that, I mean, you have the pieces. I mean, it's really just about fine tuning the stuff,
Mhm.
building some structure. It seems like you're not as like mobile up here, and that's what's keeping your elbows down so low. So
Mhm.
exposing yourself to that position every single day is gonna help improve that front rack position. So it's gonna rack and be more comfortable there.
Yep.
Um, and then as far as like everything else, just getting comfortable with the squatting, I think is key.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll make some notes about that. It's
Yeah,
good.
let me know, and if you wanna practice it and send video to me, I'll look at it. Just
Okay.
send it to me over Instagram. I'll look at it for you.
Perfect.
Um,
Yeah, I appreciate that.
yeah. Do you have any other questions before we finish?
Um, no, I think that's it. I mean, according to my watch, I kind of went over 6 minutes with you, so I
I always,
appreciate you.
I
I
always
appreciate.
go over. It's okay, man. If you have another question, ask it.
um, with the point about the obliques, like, would it be fair to say that, because one thing that I struggle with again in the squat is with like heavy front squats. I can
Yeah.
usually stand it up, but as I come down to a heavy squat, I literally like just collapse in my
Yeah.
midline. So I come
Yeah.
down, and as my hips come up, my front body just goes whoop, and I end up getting this funny little as I come back up. It's not
Yeah.
pretty, and it's really uncomfortable. But I've tried. Obviously, strapping myself in a weight belt makes it easier, but
For sure.
I'm not. My coach is always like, you shouldn't rely on a weight belt unless you absolutely know how to use it, and
Wholeheartedly agree.
because you're kind of collapsing the midline first. He goes, that tells me that your midsection is not
Yeah.
as developed as it should be. So is that like a combination of that obliques you mentioned
It
earlier?
is the obliques that's causing that. Okay, so make a bicep. Make a bicep right now. So touch the bicep. You feel the connection, right? Now
Mhm.
straighten your arm. Straighten your arm. Do you still feel the connection?
Not as much,
Not
unless
as
I
much.
yeah.
When the muscle gets longer, it's not able to connect as well. So what's happening is your obliques are not very strong. Right
Mhm.
now, when I'm standing straight, this is it at its extended position. Now it's overextended, so the oblique is longer. So it's
Yeah.
harder to find the oblique here. When the weight gets heavy, your obliques are going to start freaking out. Like I can't stabilize at my regular length here. So what does it have to do? It has to shorten to find the tension.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's the same idea here. Your bicep feels the most tension when it's shortest, right? So that's what's happening when you're squatting. The oblique doesn't feel strong, so now it needs to shorten. That's why you're collapsing.
Mhm. Mhm.
For years, I always thought it was because people's upper backs weren't strong enough, and I was trying to get them to learn how to arch their back more. No, that's not really the case. People are really good at using the low back. It's proven. We don't need to teach people how to use their low back. We need to strengthen the oblique here.
Yeah.
So one of the exercises that we teach at the StrongFit seminars is the external oblique opener. And if you look on my YouTube channel, I have like some videos explaining the why and the how and the what, and then you
Mhm.
can actually look at the StrongFit video on how to do it. But
Okay.
one of the easiest things you can do is take your hands and go like this, and then breathe in through your belly. And see how my hands expand like that when I push out with my obliques,
Mhm.
and just practice that. When you're in the grocery store, stand like this and breathe in, press out, and that's what the belt is for. When you wear a belt,
Mhm.
it's to tell you that you're expanding. Sage Bergner taught it like this. It's like you want your body to be a pyramid. You make the bottom part as wide as possible, and so when you brace to breathe, I'm pressing out like this. And then when I exhale, I do the same thing, but except for instead of pushing out, I'm drawing everything in. So when
Mhm.
I'm bracing and breathing, it's kind of the cycle of expanding on the inhale and then really contracting like a corset on the exhale. So creating more and more tension.
Mm.
Play
Okay.
around with that. Just like put hands here and you can see my hands moving, right?
Yeah.
Like for a lot of people, they have no clue how to create that pressing out with the obliques, and that's how you fill the belt. That's what the belt is for, to tell you that, oh, I'm bracing.
Mhm.
The belt's not meant to support your spine. It's really just a tool, a kinesthetic tool. So you're like, okay, I'm pressing out, and you can see it expanding, right? So this is regular, this is expanded. So that's where I would have you target, is to build those. And if you have questions on the oblique opener, because the video is kind of vague and it's one of the hardest exercises to learn online, um, send me a message on Instagram. I'll help you with it because it's hard to learn on your own.
Gotcha. Okay. No, I appreciate that. That's great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for sure, John. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Hey,
We'll
thanks for
probably
your time.
post. It'll probably be a few weeks before this airs on YouTube, but yeah, I really appreciate your time today.
Hey, thanks for the insight. I love what you're doing, and keep up the great work. Stay safe down there.
Thanks, John. See you later.
Take care.
Bye.
See ya.